moving the 6 payrolls to 1 payroll. We are going to be giving all county employees, a memorandum went out today. It'll be in their paychecks for the 14th and 28th. The way that we were able to pull it off is just by moving a couple of the pay dates for October and November. It will definitely be an inconvenience for some county employees who have their automatic deductions, but they will only have to wait a couple days for their pay. But it'll be on 1 payroll by the end of 2018.
Thank you.
One question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Pedri, you said you have the list nearly finalized of the $15 million.
Correct.
Are you going to bring that to council for council's approval or what?
No, I will not.
You're not? You're just going to give that money away yourself?
It'll be the committees that we reviewed it with the committee. This is from the community development.
Do you have that authority to give that away? I remember when I was an elected official here in this county as a commissioner that the community development office always brought that annual community development fund schedule to the commissioners because we were ultimately, the elected officials were ultimately responsible for those funds. But you believe you have the authority to just give that $15 million away on your own without a vote from council? I do, but I'll have the Solicitor's Office review it, and if the Solicitor's Office tells me otherwise, I'll come to council with the office. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Sweats.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Children and Youth audit was delivered last Friday. So the Luzerne County payroll, budget and finance, we'll be working on clearing up the items now to get our portion done. We did get the update from the auditors on Friday. Our portion includes the management discussion analysis, tying out the due to froms, all the things that we talked about the last few weeks as we gave the update. Our team and the CLA team is aware of the deadline for filing for the EMMA for any kind of future refinancing and just to keep our credit rating, in all honesty, even if we don't do any refinancing. So we've been getting emails. I got an email from Mr. Lee, who's one of the people on the job from CLA last night, 10 after 9. So their team and our team are moving forward on open items to get them cleared out. The legal letter updates are scheduled to be given on Friday. So this Friday, you should have all the legal letter updates. If we don't before the update goes out, we'll be calling and chasing them down. Hopefully we don't need to. So we are well aware of what needs to be done, and we're working with CLA to get this done. We would like to have this completed by the 25th or the next meeting. I would say at this time we could put it on there. It's really due by the end of the month, but we'd like to have it at the public meeting before. So that's what we're doing. So we're working with CLA. We have CNY's audit, which we gave to their auditor, so if that will affect the county's opinion, that's really a conversation for a later date. So we have CNY's audit, and we're moving forward on items for our audit.
Questions for Mr. Sweats? Good news that you have the audit. Hopefully that'll help us to complete the county audit and have it here on time.
Yes.
And Act 13?
Sure. On the Act 13, I was trying to give us a one-page summary. That we have that detail sheet which kind of lists each bill. Our office works with operations and gets their estimates. So operations had originally sent at the meeting we had, I believe, at Dallas EMA, using the entire $281,000 plus the interest. That included $60,000 for some stonework. We had a contract for slightly less. I think it was $56,750. I put that in there. So I started with the beginning balance to change. We did receive an energy rebate. That's in there. There was some additional.
Where did the energy rebate come from?
We got an additional energy rebate of $55.63.68, and I believe it had to do with the replacing the lights.
Converting the light fixtures to LED. We received a rebate from PPO.
From PPO, yes. So we have that. When I had talked to Eddie at the time the agenda went out, we thought there may be a change order at around $75,000. So we had encumbered another $18,250. When Eddie and Larry on Monday said, they sat down, the contractor actually was down there, and the additional amount would be $89,250. So I subtracted that, and I sent Sharon a new one-sheeter today of about $47,000. I just want to tell council, obviously it's your decision. Anything that goes over that amount, if council does give out any money, would come out of the general fund. So we're trying to set this up so all the money that comes in, the $281,000, we take out for Black Fly, we take out for the salary reimbursement, we take out for these projects, that all of that is basically just the money from, we don't want to be using general fund dollars for this project. So that's our estimate. So basically when Eddie says $7,500 for electricity, if we spend $4,500, we have $3,000 in there. But if it actually costs 10, it actually costs 10. So I would not recommend giving out the whole 46,982, but that is the number as of today. And again, that's council's decision, but I just wanted to give you the number.
Questions for Mr. Swets on the Act 13?
No, I got a question on the energy savings. My understanding is that any money that came from energy savings was going to go, like maybe in a separate fund, that's going to be used to pay down the bond that was taken out for energy efficiency.
There is a separate fund. So last year we split out between the general fund, this new Fund 206, right, which is the Act Marcellus Shale Fund. This was related to changing the lights for that project. Right. So that energy is in that line. If we want to, we could do that. I mean, it's $5,563. I mean, it is, every penny helps, but to put that on $400 million of debt is, but if council wants to do that, we can do that.
But how much debt did you borrow for the energy savings?
It was
$7 million.
Around $7 million.
Yeah. So you said you were going to recoup that $7 million, but if you're not bringing it back in and putting it in a fund to pay that $7 million back,
right,
it's going to come in little by little. It's not going to come in
all at once. Agreed.
So that's what I was getting at. So.
It's in there again. If council doesn't want to give that, use that money for a different project, we can do that. It is in a separate fund. It's not in the general fund. And we are tracking it.
I think we have McClure coming into county council, I believe, October 9th. Is that right, Mr. Chair?
I think
but if you just give me numbers, but you spend the money on something else, you're not really doing what you said you were going to do, and that was to take that money to pay back the bond.
Mr. Urban, when we chose to go with the energy project, we're talking about saving money on electricity costs and water, etc. This is a rebate from P&L.
Right, and it's a rebate based on, it's a changing the globes.
That was outside of the McClure Energy.
Right.
That was done independently within our office. Mr. McIntosh.
Yeah, so it wasn't part of the energy savings project.
That was not. No.
So that's why I think they put it in this fund, because it was not part of that project. Correct?
Correct.
So, it's $5,500 or whatever. I mean,
a little bit over, yeah.
Decisions could be made, but that's why it was placed here.
Chair?
Yes. Go to the please go to the podium so people can hear.
In addition to the fact that that was not part of the energy project, the upfront cost to make that conversion were taken out of the recreation fund. So that rebate helped offset those costs. Just
okay.
For clarification.
That makes sense. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Urban?
Yep.
Anyone else? Mr. Haas?
So yeah, question, Mr. Chair, about the stonework in that case.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at here, so the new final price, we saw that we got the email about the bids, right? I think that's where we saw that, correct?
Correct.
And what are we looking at? I guess this question's directed for Mr. O'Neill. What are we looking at how are we going forward with that project? How we proceed? When will repairs begin?
Yes.
What's the timeline?
There was an order issued to Panzita, who was a low bidder on that project.
Yeah.
And the original contract was 53 and some change. However, there has been some recent problems at the other end of the fishing pier, similar but not as severe as what we've experienced on the south end. So after looking at that, Mr. Panzita came down after the bid was put in, reviewed the additional work that has to be done. It's very similar in nature, just not quite as much of it. So with that additional cost, and also the fact that there were some bonds that I insisted on having, payment performance and maintenance bonds that were not initially included in the RFP, there was an extra 1% tacked on. So the total with the change order for the additional work at the north end of the pier is just over $89,000.
Okay. I guess, okay, it's very helpful. So the other, I saw we only had 2 bids on that, so.
That's correct.
So were they, I think it's still less than the original bid for just the one project from what I recall seeing. But they didn't get a chance to survey the north area then?
Well, the north area, that's been fairly recent. The cut stones that actually fell at the south end of the fishing pier. Again, there was a similar process taking place, but earlier in the stages where it was pulling away from the sidewalk. And we noticed it shortly after we did the RFP. There was one cut stone that was probably about 2 or 3 inches, if that. But because of the grout that's there, it's very difficult to notice it. It's not really obvious. But even since then, there has been a second one down that end that is starting to pull away. So
My second question, regardless of even that situation, are we changing our insurance policy to make sure that going forward, we're going to have this perpetual expenditure? Because I know when this riverfront went through years ago, that was the question on everybody's mind in the neighborhood in Wilkes-Barre. Okay, we got this beautiful facility, or millions of dollars. How are we going to maintain this? And of course, here we are. It falls upon the county. What do we have? Do we have any safeguards in place, or are we considering anything? Well, going forward,
we are reaching out to the insurance company to see if that's something that they will even put under the policy, and that's questionable. I mean, obviously, you can insure anything for the right amount of money, yes. But so we are investigating that. Well, that has not been done at this point.
Yeah. I know the ice jam was incredible.
As far as insurance, there's certain things they will not insure, because of the costs and the fact that it could
perhaps
be such
that may be the case. I'm inclined to think that maybe there was some reason why that wasn't put on back when the project was completed, but I can't really speak to that point.
Yeah. And obviously we that was the first ice jam flood in 80 years.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, knock wood. There was also the first hurricane that hit, the first tornado that hit Wilkes-Barre. So it's been a rough couple of years. So I mean, hopefully that will be okay from where we're at. But I understand your point.
Yeah, if we look into that too, I think that'd be very helpful. We just don't want to throw good money after bad, and I mean, again, we're on the hook for that. That's there. We have to maintain it. I support you.
I will work with Michelle Sparich, handles a lot of our insurance work. I'll work with her to make sure we look into that.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else?
I think just one other thing. We usually, council had about 60 or 70,000. So again, it's your call, but in future years when we did the budget, even on a smaller allocation, after we paid the expenses, obviously we didn't have the stone, but usually about 6,000 or 7,000. So even if you were to use all of this, it would be a substantially scaled back program from the prior years.
Correct. Thank you. Any public comment? Anyone in the public who would like to address the council at this time? We have a motion adjourned.
Motion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Haas, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Urban, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
You're done. You need it.